Hello everyone, and here we are with the September release. This is one of the awesome stamps. There are 18 products that were released for the CC Designs September release. They're all Halloween themed, but also several things that you can use throughout the year, like the cutest little treat bag die. But today we're going to use the Trick or Treat stamp set with the Trick or Treat dies, and also the alphabet. It is the bubble alphabet die set to make our sentiment. Here I am stamping most of the little images from the Trick or Treat stamp set. All of the little kids trick or treating on a 110-pound heavyweight paper. I think it's paper trading cardstock. I wanted to try it out. I'm stamping it on one side. Then I decided, you know what? The reason why I cut the paper the size that I did was so I can stamp both two sets of the same stamps in case I made a boo-boo, and I did make a boo-boo. I actually messed up my stamps. You'll notice along the way the little boo-boo I did, which smudged some of the stamps, and I just had to go in and backtrack and recolor a few of them. But here I am stamping them with Memento black ink on my Misty, and totally makes it easier for me to color on stamp them on my Misty. Now with the werewolf, I used E30, E33, E34, and E31 to make all of these from the lightest to the darkest, and then a little bit of the lightest again for the fur. Now, I realized after the fact that some of the actual numbers are not fully seen, but like I said, these are E30, 33, E34, and E31 that I used for the werewolf. I tried to use some of the same ink, some of the same Copic colors for other parts of my stamps, so it was easier for me to color these things as I went. For the little nose and the ears of the werewolf, I used R32 and R30. I like using R30 for the cheeks. Many people use like R22 for the cheeks, but I feel like it's really strong. This gives it a really light blush. I went ahead and used those same Copic colors to color in the shirt of the little Frankenstein fellow, and then also to color the face of the little mummy. Like I said, I wanted to use some of the same colors so it was easier for me to track them as well, but it's easier when you're coloring several images. You can use them through several parts of the stamps. Now with the purples, I use BV11 and BV13. I only use two, but I did basically brush the tips along the other one with lighter to the dark to get a medium shade, if in case you don't have all of those colors like I did right here for the little pants. So I use that for those same colors for the pants of the Frankenstein and of the little werewolf. Like I said, I tried to use the coordinating colors for several images so it was easier for me to keep track of them. Now I started with the C's, C1, C0, and C3, and then afterwards I threw in some C7. I accidentally grabbed an N Copic for the neutral, and I totally just decided to go back to the C's. And here I am just drawing several streaks, going from the lighter to the darker, going along with the drawn lines for the hair. Now if you notice, on occasions I do use my colorless blender from Copics to kind of clean up the edges if I did go outside of the lines. On occasions you will also see me using our little white jelly roll pen to cover up some of the boo-boos where I do get out of the lines, and it might be just a little bit. Instead of using the Copic Zero colorless blender, I do use it sometimes to go ahead and cover up some of the lines. Here I'm using the C's, like I said, it was C0, C1, C3, C7 to fill in the skeleton body for the black, and the light brown of the hair is the same light brown. See right here, I'm actually touching it up because I realized that I went over the lines where the skeleton would be. And I just covered the edges with the jelly roll pen just to kind of cover your little boo-boos so it looks perfect between you and me, and nobody's going to know I made some boo-boos. But here I use the E40, 41, E42, E43 Copics to color in the mummy. I didn't want to be super white. I wanted to look I know sometimes people color in the little mummies and they make them look very white. I didn't. I really wanted it to look like an actual aged mummy that just came out of a sarcophagus. So I used some of the darker colors to fill in the color a little more. Of course, the E43 and 42 were used to shade in the little corners where the fabric would overlap. And I used those same colors to color in the hair for the skeleton, the little skeleton boy. Like I said, it's easier for you to reuse some of the colors to go into from one of the different characters to the other. And once again, just a little bit of the colorless blender just to kind of clean up the edges for my stamps. Now for the ghost, I did use W00, W1, and W3. Just a little smidgen of W3 just to kind of outline the cheeks, the head, to give it a little bit more definition, because even though it's white, the little ghost is white, you want to give it some shadowing so it can be defined more white from the centers. And it looks like a little bit more shadowing with just a little touch of R30 on the cheeks to give it a little bit of blush. Now I'm using the Trick or Treat die set, and by the way, I did not have these already set up, so I had to use my little snips to go ahead and cut them apart. I personally prefer to use these snips because, and you find them in the jewelry section of any craft store, and it actually gives you a flushed, flat cut, unlike regular pliers where it kind of gives you that little pointed edge. And this kind of makes it cleaner, and I totally absolutely love it, to get yourself a cleaner cut on your dies. Like I said, these were not prepared. I had to do these as we go, but just to show you, this is the process. This is literally a process I thought of today and just trying to get it together from start to finish. I sometimes do have like a project list to try to figure it out, and it doesn't always work. So here I am cutting just some basic cardstock. What I'm doing is cutting out templates, because if I want a perfect cut with my dies, you can typically do it, and look, right here is where I boo-boo the entire thing up. I try to wipe it off, but hey, no problem. I had the other part, and I went ahead and colored the other side, because the back of my die cutting mat for my Big Shot is it was dirty because I have an old one, and as you see, the cutting plates I totally used and loved. I just went ahead and flipped it over and colored the characters that got messed up on the first section. And that was the Frankenstein and the Frankenstein and the little werewolf. So if you notice right now, I'm putting in the dies. What I do is I cut out the little basic cardstock, and then I layer it down on the actual image, so I get the spacing of a perfect die cut. And then I just layer the die on top of that and remove that little template that I cut out from some basic cardstock. I do slit one of the ends, one of the edges at the bottom, so I'm able to open it. I layer it over the stamp, put down the die, hold the die down, and then remove it with that little notch right in the middle. I do all of them, and then I realized, hey, by the way, that ghost, I put it on the wrong ghost, and the uncolored ghost. So here I am, but I'm also doing this as well, so you can see I didn't use the template on that, and all of these dies, they are perfectly aligned, so you can see the outline, and you get the perfect cut. Here I am taking them out one by one, so you can see what they look like. Perfect borders, perfect edges, and the little ghost, I didn't use a template, and it was perfect. I went ahead and got rid of everything else that I didn't use. And here I am. Now I'm cutting 1-inch strips of the same 110-pound cardstock. I'm cutting 1-inch strips so I can make the candy corn layers. I'm going to go ahead and just tape these little strips to some basic scratch paper so I can go ahead and color them with my Lawn Fawn. It was fake tan and sunflower ink. Of course, I'm going to have to go sunflower, yes, and fake tan. I did try lemonade and carrot just to see how it would look, but the sunflower and fake tan gave me the best results for this coloring. And I just went ahead and grabbed a distressing tool, the little round ones, and went ahead and used the Lawn Fawn inks for this candy corn layered strips, so I can then easily go in and cut with the alphabet dies. As you can see right here, I'm barely getting around to it. Oh, and check this out. They have not cotton candy dork. They have corn candy marshmallows. By the way, Nathan hates marshmallows and hates candy corn. So totally favorite treat now because he won't steal it for me. And if you notice on the right, I had to actually draw a little candy corn and then separate the layers because I couldn't remember exactly which way they went. But here I am. I tried the lemonade yellow, and then I went ahead and kept the sunflower because that is the one that stuck the best. Now I'm going to go ahead and try to do the orange. I tried the carrot, which was light, so that is when I went ahead and tried the orange. So here I am just kind of streaking it across to get the layer, but I decided to get a little piece of cardstock to kind of get a more defined layer. And I should have also done it on the opposite side of the orange because I felt like that I got too much a defined layer on top, but it worked to what I needed it. I really wanted to make sure that it had the white space on the top like real candy corn. For my candy corn letters for the squad goals, because I've seen several sheets like several shirts and stuff like that say squad goals and stuff like that, and I've seen Halloween ones that say squad goals, but I didn't have a hashtag die, and I just wanted to put squad goals. If you wanted to send a little Halloween hello, a little Halloween hi, how's it going to your friends, or maybe to friends that you used to go trick-or-treating with when you were a little kid. So here I am layering the letters with some washi tape on the strip. And by the way, I also taped the strip not only to the scratch paper so I can make sure and color them incorrectly, but I also taped them to my cutting die, the cutting platform, excuse me, so I can make sure, and they are still, because there's so many little parts, to get as much as I can out of that strip. I used most of the one strip, and then I was able to, I just needed to redo some of the letters on the second strip. But here I am taking them out of the die and everything, and had to do it only once, and I got perfect cuts. And you can see here on the right on this little dish that the letters are coming out perfectly. Now I did have to also die cut the S, I think, and the U twice, just to make sure that I had enough of the letters for the sentiment. But here they are, just easily comes out. Now, I did have to poke them out with my piercing tool, but that's only because I had the washi tape over it. And I just ran it again so I can get the S, the additional S, and the U. And you can see on the right-hand side how it's going to spell squad goals. Now, coming up, I did make a boo-boo because I originally decided to do a landscape card, but I ended up starting to do my scene here. Now, I just took some Concord grape, I believe, cardstock from Stampin' Up, because I wanted to create a night scene for when you go trick-or-treating with your squad ghoul. And I went ahead and created my own template. Let me know if you guys want me to show you how I create one of these templates. I don't have a stencil or anything. This is something I hand did, and I typically do when I have a sky scene, so I have a unique and individual sky for each one of them. It's not a stencil that I bought. This is literally hand cut just out of a whim to get my my background here. And I wanted to use black ink, and this is Lawn Fawn Licorice ink, to get my background. Now, as you see here, I'm setting up the card, I'm getting it going and everything, and after the fact is when I realized that what I needed was a landscape card as opposed to a portrait A2 size card. But I went ahead and just redid it. That's why in the end finished product, you will see it look the opposite way as opposed to standing in portrait like it is right now. Here I am just cutting it down because I was kind of finagling with the sizes to make sure I had enough space for the letters. And here I am stamping and cutting out a 3 by 4.5 little card section to write a sentiment on the inside, because it is a black cardstock base. I wanted to have the Halloween fun stamp from the collection, from the stamp set, inside of the, for a sentiment inside of the card. And here I am just tucking it in here, going ahead and here with my ATG, so you have someplace to write your sentiment and the front it gets placed. And I still, till this point, did not realize that I meant to do a landscape card until now. As you see here, I have my little, all of my images, all my squad goals set up on a mock-up, an A2 size card, and that's when I realized. So off camera, I went ahead and created another card front with with a landscape landscape scene, so I can put in that would be the best way, that was the best way that my little figures and the squad ghouls sentiment fit perfectly. And here I am putting 3M mounting foam on the back of these little adorable guys, which not only did I just die cut, but I also die cut a heavyweight cardstock layer, just white layer to glue to the back of them, so they're a little bit more sturdy considering the fact that they were going to be on dimensionals in case there's, a little bit of movement and showing off a little card, so it is a little bit sturdier. All these little characters are safe and sound. And here I am just painstakingly cutting little strips of the foam, as you can see right here, for the back of the letters because they are smaller. Now, I was thinking of actually die cutting the foam, but it was pretty late and I didn't want to. I already had some of the foam cut up, so it was easy for me to cut little strips to put on the back, as you can see right here. And not only that, I always like to do a little mock-up to see how it's going to look before I adhere all of the letters, all of the sentiment and the little figures. And here I am just kind of stacking them out and going ahead and removing the backing of the 3M mounting foam and lining up most of these little guys trick-or-treating in the bottom and just that little ghost on the top, because I felt that it covered up that little hole that was left, since squad is a lot shorter word than ghouls. And instead of making all of the letters directly across in a straight line, I went ahead and had them kind of a little wonky, lopsided, so it would look a little bit hauntish, like if it's floating like the little ghost on the top right. So I hope you guys like it. You guys, thank you for sticking around for my entire process. I hope you guys go and check out CC Designs for all of their new collection. They are amazing. I will have a link in the description for all of these items. Again, thank you guys for stopping by, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye, everyone.